But today we do have a special guest, and that is none other than Nick's boss and Cleveland's own well-known independent filmmaker, Mr. Johnny Woo. Johnny, how are you doing today, sir?
Pretty good. Thanks for the invite, Matt and Nick and Tyler.
No problem. Anytime. I know Nick and I, when we first started this, had talked about wanting to get you on eventually. So this is something that's been a long time coming.
Absolutely, and it's probably the best way to do it, I guess.
Yes.
Because you're doing the YouTube series as well, and Lou and I were able to be on that kind of film similarly to this. I guess starting out, if you want to tell us a little bit about how that series has been going and what you've been doing with that, and a little bit about yourself, I guess. Your YouTube series.
Oh,
that you've been doing.
Well, I was bored to my mind, so I had to do something about it. So I decided to do something related to filmmaking and talk about filmmaking and have people ask questions about it. So Lou, you and Lou were the first people that I actually do interviews with, because I ran out of things to talk about, and that came out really good. So people actually enjoyed it, and I think we have probably about 77 views each time. So it's not that much and not that little. So it's actually enough that people can be enjoyed it. This coming Monday, which is tomorrow, I'm interviewing Scott Brocious. So I'm gonna be make that live to YouTube and Facebook at the same time. Figure out how to do that eventually. So that's kind of exciting.
So you can see that at MDI Film on YouTube. By the way, make sure we plug that.
Yeah, thank you.
But no, absolutely. But no, I mean, you've been involved with so much just around Cleveland in general. For those of you who are watching who probably know Johnny already, but if you want to tell a little bit about yourself to the viewers that might not know who you are.
Sure. I'm a filmmaker. My name is Johnny Woo. I've been making movies since 1998. I've been very fortunate enough to have a lot of my films distributed, short film, feature film wise. And being also administrators of the Cleveland Indie Club groups, which is a monthly get-together meetings for filmmakers in Cleveland, Ohio. We've been doing that since 2003, so that's one of the oldest group in the country. Because Indie Club, there's a bunch of different groups all over the cities, and I was probably the only one left standing. So, which is kind of cool. Besides that, I also produce events. Been doing the Cleveland Asian Festival events for the past 10 years. Unfortunately, this year we canceled the event, so we don't have this year event, but hopefully come back again next year. The other one is the Cleveland Cultural Gardens One Word Day event. This is my 6th year doing it. So far right now, that is still going on, but you never know. Depending on the pandemic, we may not going to have the event. Who knows? So that's basically what I do. I do also do a lot of testing product for companies. Company from China send me products. I test them out, break them with Nick once in a while. He actually broke one of my toys before, so hey.
I was gonna bring that up. Hey, I mean, we brought it up last week. So,
that's good, because the more you can break it, the more you can know what's wrong with it, and they will fix it out and give you a new one. So that's being fortunate to be doing that. So that's about it in a nutshell.
So Johnny, I've always been curious, what got you into filmmaking?
That's a very good question. I'm actually, when I was a kid, I liked to produce events, and back when I was living in Panama in Central America, I'm a diplomat. I was a son of a diplomat, so we travel a lot of different countries, and so doing there, I was 12 years old and organized a whole bunch of high school events, like mocking the teachers, do shows like that, and I always put it together. There's one time I put together a choir groups for the diplomat's wife. They can go to different diplomatic events and they sing. I was not invited because I was under 18. So they can go, I can't go anywhere. Kind of sucks. So I came back to Cleveland and started doing a lot of different activities for promoting events. Did a martial art tournaments for 3 years. Did really big and did well done. And then I did a bunch of different smaller events, martial demonstrations, so on. Until 1998, I met a friend of mine, a filmmaker, photographer from the Cleveland Museum of Art, natural history of Cleveland Museum of Art. And we teamed up together and started MDI. So he and I, we worked together and did our first feature film called Twisted. Never got released because one of the main actors, Sean Ferris, got really, really big in Hollywood, so he asked us not to release it, and we agreed not to do that. He doesn't talk to me anymore, which is kind of sad. But I just saw a bunch of pictures of him too, so it's kind of unfortunate. But from through that, I've been doing lots of work. Traveled back to forth in LA back in 2002. I'm sorry, 2001, back and forth for a year and a half. Every other week living in LA and then here, and then trying to make a living, and did well. Get to know Hollywood, they get to know how people that work, and so just continue my filmmaking. Since then, and got fortunate enough that everything that's just been doing well. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yes.
No, if you want to talk about a few of your projects that you've been working on, I mean, I know a lot of the people who watch this series have been in them because, I mean, they are so inviting, whether it be Inner Self with its flash mob scene and such. But if you want to talk about some of your projects that you've been involved with.
So one of my first projects, a fan film called A Joker's Card back in 2004, that did really well. So I decided to do a little bit more fan films and did a Superman fan film. And then after that got so well received, and everybody said you should do a feature film. So I did The Rapture. You can watch it for free now. The movie's horrible, but you can go and watch it and enjoy it. That's you probably can learn something there. I don't know. We were the first people in Cleveland doing Wirework in independent filmmaking base, and we just continue with that. So in 2018, I released a martial comedy musical, and that did okay because it's a very weird genre to sell. So it's still being tried to be sold to different countries, but it's still, because of the pandemic, now we're just waiting for a country to pick it up.
Right.
And then I also helped executive produce 2 films, feature film, one for Jason and the other one for Keith. Then another fan film called Parker. Nick did all the editing and special effects for that. That actually did really well. We also did a Doctor Who fan film that surprisingly did well. Every time I go to different Comic-Con, people say, I know you. You're the guy who did the Doctor Who fan film. It's really great. It's kind of cool to be heard of that. So that's kind of interesting. My latest project is from last year, Whoosh 2, The Code. That is going to be hopefully coming out by the end of this month, end of May, right after Maximilian. So we'll see hopefully that comes out, and hopefully see how far that goes. Currently trying to work. We were working on a project for spring, but never going to happen now because of the pandemic. I'm an executive producer and co-directed that drama feature film with Jeremy Campbell. He wrote the script. It's actually interesting story. So we may be trying to think of it September, if not maybe next year. So we're still waiting for the time when it's good. And I'm working on a project right now for this winter, another feature film, sci-fi martial art type. So kind of like Whoosh 2, but had nothing to do with it, but just a little more what do you call, thriller, horror, sci-fi-ish type.
The ability to do wire work, I feel, is like not something you encounter too often on the independent film realm. How did you come to that?
Well, I just always like to fly, so that's the best way to put it. When I do wire work, because I grew up a very Chinese culture background, and wire work is part of the martial art training. Well, not the martial art folklore. So you get to hear lots of things about in the Chinese novels how people can fly from one feet to the other feet and so on and so on. My dad understands how to train that, but they don't call them flying; they call them jumping. So based on the training you do, you can actually jump about 6 feet tall or 7 feet tall, and that's through training. And back in China, the walls are shorter, so the walls in different houses are like 6 to 7 feet tall. So a person can jump over the house, which is normal because the house is short, it's small. So that's basically the in novels, why people write novels, they write about people can fly over the houses and this and that. So that became wire work. So I always want to incorporate wire work in my movie because I think it's kind of interesting and different. So we did a little short test for 3 minutes long back in 2002. The chase, it actually did well. It's a one fight sequence in a freight elevator, and then people flying around it with flying up and down only. So it did well. So we did that, and then we did a couple of more stuff. The Rapture have a lot of wire work in it. We have people flying backwards, people flying up and down. I'm doing one of the trailer shoot that we did for the trailer. We actually have a guy fell backwards and didn't land to the pads and actually broke a few of his ribs.
Oh.
So that was an unfortunate incident, but that was actually the biggest and the only major incident we had during the whole shoot. But other than that, everything came out really well. The wire was always fun to do. People enjoyed being on. George Tootie was on Wired. E. Ray Goodwin was on Wired. Brandy Seymour was on Wired. Kyle Zamanek was on Wired. Then we had Ben Soraki, a couple other people. So it was always fun thing to do wire work. A little bit different.
Well, I know with Parker that had a ton of wire work in it, and I actually rewatched that today in preparation for this. You've always been the guy who, no matter what, you're like Kevin Smith, where you like to make the kind of movies you want to see. Would you just agree with that sentiment? Yeah.
I also like to make movies to challenge myself. Every time I do a movie, it had to be more complicated than the one before. So that's always true. Like the next feature film in winter I'm doing, we're gonna do wire work outdoor, so in a very controlled environment. So that's gonna be a little bit different, and let's see how far I can go with that.
I guess, a lot of projects, you do a lot of shorts as well as features, obviously. Mm-hmm. The Prize was one that just came out recently that's on YouTube, where you can see me drop a battery at the end. But Wuja was a short that turned into a feature film. So how important would you say, for all the younger filmmakers and people who are really starting, how important would you say making short films are to get to the point that you want to be at?
It's actually very important. If you want to go out and do your first feature film and you never have any filmmaking experience, you're going to encounter a lot of obstacles. And that could be something that you have to think about a little bit harder and how to organize a little bit more. But by making a lot of short films, you learn the process of doing it. And you hone your skill to make a better feature film. Especially when you are participating in all those film competitions, like the 48-hour film competition. Some of them have the 24 hours. There's a 72 hours film competition. You participate in those kind of environment and force you to have more control, understanding how to control your time, and do not go over the time that you need to do to make your movie. And it's very important because that kind of experience carries on to your feature film and make it easier for you to understand how to make a feature film better. And like Nick, you had a very good example. I mean, you did lots of short films, and then you just finished up a recent feature film, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's just something that I would like to preach to other filmmakers. It's just advice that I have, because I have a lot of people who go up to me and they're like, hey, I wrote this feature-length script. Would you help me make it? Then I'm like, well, how many shorts have you done before? And what experiences do you have when it comes to your filmmaking and such like that? And a lot of them don't end up having that experience, where I see you as a perfect example of that, where especially with Wuja, you took a concept and you turned it into something bigger. So I just applaud you for that, and definitely agree that it is a very good way to go about it when it comes to filmmaking.
Thank you. Well, the first one we shot at basically just showcasing people fighting. And then the second one, you had to add in writings and stories, so that went a little bit more crazier. But we pulled it off, and then we have a very talented cast and crew that working together. We shot two. We have over 100 casts, and then maybe about 30 different crews, and all working hard. Working on the weekends. Nobody get paid. Sometimes they had to travel about an hour and a half, and outside the cold weather, which usually I like to film my stuff on, because cold is actually beautiful. So that's how
it does look really nice, people. I mean,
yeah,
it looks brilliant. But I was there that day, and it was definitely very cold. But when you see like what the final product is, I mean, the same thing goes for any special effects that I've experienced and stuff like that, where it takes time, but and for that example, it would take time out in the cold, but I mean, it looks really nice in the end.
Yeah,
So
I hope so, and we'll see how far it goes with the distribution.
Real quick, anybody who's watching, if you have any questions for Johnny, drop them in and we will post them up so he can see them and possibly answer them. I actually watched Whoosh. Nick can attest to this. I'm the type of guy who, when I know we're doing an interview with someone, I try to go back and watch as much of their stuff as possible and just get a better idea of their style and everything. And Whoosh, like you just said, it was a way to showcase some martial artist fighters. But I watched that, and just some of how it was shot. You mentioned cold weather. How it was shot was really interesting, and there were some really crisp, clean shots that I just loved seeing on the screen.
Yeah, that's because we have Jason as one of the main DP, and we wanted to make like the 28 days later type of style, where you see ghostly motion when you fight against each other or running. So we applied that one to the camera. So every time we switch camera angles, there you see a very, very ghostly looking shot of speed throughout the whole thing. It looks like more impactful fight sequences. I wanted to do the same thing with We Shot 2, but we didn't. We're out of time because no matter how much time we spend on scheduling and planning, there's always a problem when it happened with the weather, since everything was shot outdoor. Like the one day we shot a boat scene, we didn't expect to be having a storm coming in. That we had to quickly get everything wrapped up so we can get out of the place. And we're fortunate now we got everything done, but we didn't have the drone shot I wanted to do. We didn't have time to do all the fight sequence that we wanted to plan for, but we make it work as much as we can.
I do hear there's a lot of fan films in your body of work, and I did watch Parker because of Nick's involvement. I did enjoy that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, what brought you to fan films? What's the appeal on that idea for you?
The first one, because we were drunk one day. And a bunch of people, my friends, Kyle Zaminak, Dave and David, a couple of them, Dan, Dana, David, Levy. We were sitting there drinking, and I was like, Kyle, you look like Joker's son. So why don't I just write a story about all the Osprey and make it a parody type and have you guys' personality in it? And so everybody agreed and just quickly put the story together and then went out there. And we have Wirework in there just to make it a little bit interesting and more fancier. That short film was well received. That because of that film, I met my current sales agent for Inner Self. He saw the movie online and he loves it so much that he said that he wanted to represent me for the future. So I have been with him since The Rapture. And got fortunate that he's one of the smaller version of sales agent that make you money back. So every time he sell to a territory, you see money back right away in your pocket. So I've been with him since then till Inner Self. We shot 2. I went with somebody else because I want to see how the different market works, just to expand my knowledge about distribution. But yeah, that's all I did. Yes, Matt.
I know Whoosh 2 is kind of making its way through like the festival circuit for martial arts movies. As I know with COVID, were there a couple festivals that it was supposed to be in that COVID kind of canceled, or?
No, actually not yet, because all the one I submitted to it's such a later in summertime, and so I did get an email just now about the action on film in Las Vegas. I agreed to show it, and we have a few emails that I cannot sell yet that confirmed that we got showing screening in September this year. But I cannot make that announcement because they haven't publicized it.
Right.
There's a few festivals turned it down. One turned it down. Kind of funny because every time they turn me down a movie of screening, I will write them an email asking, say, hey, I'd like to know why you turned it down so I can learn better to become a better filmmaker next time. So the email reply was, you submitted in November. We already have our selection picked in November. And we only have 6 slots available for all the 200 films submitted. So it wasn't because they didn't like it. It's just because I submitted very late.
Right.
Something with last year. Last year I submitted to Urban Film Festival over in New York City. Right after I found out about the deadline, and I sent it in. And unfortunately, again, I sent it a little bit too late, so they couldn't screen it. So the organizer told me to resubmit again this year, just because he likes the movie so much, but unfortunately, the slot already be full. So that could happen. So one thing I learned about film festival submission is you don't submit late. You always submit on time, because sometimes all the films that are being judged or watched by the jury, and they already picked the top numbers and starting planning for scheduling. So if you submit it in during the late time of the submission, you most likely will not get it in because already have your slots full.
I was gonna say, do you have any more advice when it comes to the festival scene? Because I know that it's such a particular scene that you're looking for. So I know that like submitting to these bigger festivals might not be as necessary for a film like Whoosh, where you would want to obviously target more towards people who are interested in martial arts films and stuff like that. But
for Whoosh too, my goal is not for film festival route. It is more about distribution route. So if I don't get to any film festival, it really doesn't matter because I already got picked up for distribution. So that's my goal. But if you submit to a festival, you want to submit to the festival to cater to your genre. In my sci-fi action film, so you had to go to that kind of festivals. And for anybody who submitted to a film festival, the shorter your film is, the quicker to get in there because of the time slot. So let's say, for example, you have a 2-minute film or 5-minute film or 10 minutes film, you can get in there quicker because a time slot or this festival schedule every 2 hours for a time slot. So a feature film can last only hour and a half. They can push in there another 2-minute film, short film to be opening or ending part of it. So that's easy to get in there. Feature film wise, you always have to submit way ahead of everybody else as soon as possible because when they start watching them, you get judged. And if people like it, then you get in, go to the second judging, third judging, and then you finally get shown. So the earlier you get in, the better chance that you have to get in there. And remember, feature film wise has to be good. Unfortunately, I think about is the festival. If the festival is more about the people who watch a movie festival is more like a dramatic type of movies or documentary style of movies, submitting those kind of festivals not going to get you anything because the people who watch your film at home that are judging your films, they don't know anything about action film. They know more about drama or documentary. So they cannot connect the kind of storyline you will tell them, and they'll find every kind of excuse to tell you the movie sucks, and so they don't get in there. And that happens a lot. So you always have to submit your film to the right genre type of festival you want. Then the chance to get in there quicker.
So do these festivals always give you notes for when you're submitting and say like you get turned down?
Technically speaking, it's supposed to, but most of the time will ignore you. I've been fortunate enough that all the feature films I submitted to, they'll give me the comment back. Inner Cell, for example, I submitted to the Austin Asian American Film Festival, and the comments were so vague that doesn't make sense. One guy said about story too short. I didn't develop the characters. The second guy said story too long. The characters are developed too much, and obviously because Austin Asian American Film Festival is more a prestige festival. If you don't have a good story or you don't have a celebrity involved in a movie project, chances are you're not going to get it because they're going to use those slots for films that have a celebrity in it already. So you gotta have to understand that, and don't say about because your movie is not good. If your movie every movie has its own audiences. It only depends whether or not you tap to the right audience or not.
All right. Well, joining us now, and I'm pretty sure he probably has a few questions because I think he did his homework on you. We have our buddy Chris. Chris, how you doing, man?
Yes, sir. What's going on, guys?
Howdy.
Mr. Wu, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Thanks for having me here.
No doubt. So I was really intrigued by just the range of the genres that you blend into certain projects. Like you definitely tackle drastically different genres into one. And I don't know if you guys have already asked this question, but what makes you want to direct certain projects like musicals or comedies or blending kung fu into them? Like what's the like what's the driving force behind that?
The driving force is first the story, second the person who I'm working with. For example, if Nate comes to me to tell me right now that he's doing a horror film and he wanted my help for 100%, I had to say yes to him, right? Even though the story sucks, I had to say yes to him, right?
I'm not pitching a horror film today.
Yeah,
Hey,
so,
we have one in the can for him. Don't worry. Save it.
So that's one thing. Story is very important for me, and also because I actually experienced a lot of different genres. I work horror films, slasher films, comedy. The martial art comedy musical I did, Inner Self, was a challenge because my sales agent was bitching about how much he didn't get anything from me, and he wanted me to give him a challenging film. So I said to him, why don't I do a martial art comedy musical? So after 5 seconds of silence, he said, sure, no problem. And of course, it's very challenging because you have a hard time selling it. We sold it to China, Thailand, and South Korea. So Taiwan, sorry, and South Korea. So 3 countries so far. But for him, it's such hard to sell because now in the slowdown session, most of the buyers do not buy film at this point because they want to know what's going on. They want to save their money. Hopefully that answered your question.
Oh no, like that's exactly like I was just super curious because that's like it could be really ambitious to not only to sell certain people on it, but I bet it was such a challenge to make it as well.
It's always challenging. The whole process is challenging, from writing the script or reading the script to scheduling to production to post-production. The more you do it, the more you realize the first copy of the version of the movie storyline that you have change to become a second one when you go to productions. It'll become a third one when you post-production. And maybe when you release it, it's the 4 versions. So it's always a challenging. The one part I hate the most is scheduling. I hate scheduling. If I had somebody else that can do it for me, by all means, I let them do it. And most people don't want to do that because feature film scheduling is a pain in the butt, especially for independent filmmakers.
Yeah.
So.
Now I know with I remember Misha joking with you. I can't remember if it was at an indie club or just on Facebook, where he was one of the stars of Inner Self, and he started Lil as the band, and he's like, "Yeah, Johnny, a year ago I didn't sing for anything. Now I was in Inner Self, and now I'm a musician because."
Yep. That's what I like to do. I mean, I've been fortunate enough that many people who work in my past project have become somebody else in somewhere else and become popular. For example, Misha, a very good example. He doesn't know how to sing, but we make it sound so good, so great in Inner Self that he became rapping. It's actually something that he really like to do. We have Sean Ferris. We did the first movie with him, and he loved become an actor. He was a model, photographer, not acting model, much more a model for photographs from Ohio. So he after the Rapture, he moved to LA and stayed there, lived in a car for a bunch of many years, and become successful. Did Never Back Down, Free Runners, a couple of feature films, and now he's married to an Asian girl and doing well. But he doesn't talk to me anymore. I have a lot of like the other guys. Sean Grandila. I'm not sure you know him. He's always in TV shows a lot. Lots of TV acting, a lot of act shows in movies and TV shows, and we did a music video with him here in Cleveland, Ohio, and then he loved it, and then he pursued his acting career, and now moved to New York City and doing really well. And, I mean, you can see every TV shows, most of the time he's in it. So
I'm curious to know, what is your creative process like? Because when I hear something like a martial art musical, that's a pretty distinct and original idea. So I'm wondering, where do you pull influence or inspiration from when you get a new idea like that?
That one was originally came out on my dream as just a comical storyline, and then I was like, I always want to do a musical, and so why not just try something different? And when my sales agent push and bitches about me not doing anything for him, I was like, why? Well, you know what? Let's try to do a martial art comedy musical, and so that came about. I watch lots of movies. I used to collect over 10,000 movies. My dad did. He had over 5,000 VHS tapes and then 5,000 beta tapes machines. I have over thousands of movies digitally in Blu-ray and VHS tape. So I watch a lot of those movies, and when I watch them, I don't watch for the story. I watch for how they make it happen. Very good example. Check out in Netflix. There's a Taiwanese or Chinese series called Handsome Siblings. Every episode, they got people flying on the rooftop of the houses or flying between trees. And I was like, how much budget do they have to get it done? That's the only thing that come out of my mind. And I was like, you know what? I want to get a crane like them. They do have, so I can have people flying around outdoors. Because it's ridiculous. Yeah, so it's ridiculous how they can pull it off. And that's something that's my inspiration. I watch those movies. I was studying and say how they make it happen, and figure out how I can do it in a cheap way, and then pull it off and say, hey, we did it.
Well,
to the point that if he had me up in a crane, he'd leave me there. So
yeah, no, that's the beauty of it.
Okay.
People had left me on the crane on a harness and then walk away from me. They want better pay of nothing.
Well, I know everyone in the Cleveland independent film scene speaks so highly of you, and everyone. And I mean,
it's all lies.
It's lies. So,
yeah.
So me, Tosh.
I have enemies.
so Misha, Sean, Laura, Ron, all of them are lying.
They're lying. Laura lies the most. No, I know she's there right now, so I had to make fun of her. Yeah, they're all lying. You know, they don't know me in person. They just know me from movie scenes.
Hey, I know. I work with you.
You lie.
I am not
you
lying.
bring my stuff, so that doesn't count.
Oh, okay. All right.
But no, what do you think it is about you and your sets that helps people gravitate towards wanting to work with you?
I'm always very honest about my projects. I don't tell them that if I cannot pay them, I tell them upfront, I'm not going to be able to pay you. If I can pay you, I will quietly talk to each one of them and say, hey, you know what? Why don't I give you $100 here and there for your gas money? That's all I can afford, but this is how you can get. And if you're honest with me too, then we go a long way. But if you're going to come to my set and say to me, Johnny, when are we going to wrap tonight? That's going to be a big flag for me to say, I'm not going to work with you anymore. Don't do that to any director, because we have so many planned out, and the day of the shooting, it's always difficult for us to have to think about how soon we need to shoot your scene because you want to go out by 5 o'clock. No, that's a number one no, and that's my pet peeves. So if somebody comes like that, I never work with that person anymore. That's for a fact. But yeah, I'm being always honest. I always treat them well. I promise them I will deliver, and I try my best to deliver the projects. And we have good food. I mean, our catering always is fantastic. Nick, you can vouch for that.
Very good.
You got real
Excellent.
good food. I don't feed you pizza only by pizza or sandwiches. I feed you everything. You want pizza? I'll give you pizza, garlic bread, all the soda you want to drink, and fruit and vegetables.
Yeah, that one day I was there on Parker. That was some good food.
Yeah,
I mean, to that point, though, that goes a long way.
Yeah.
I mean, I can attest to having to go to the trope of pizza every once in a while. But I mean, like, if you have somebody who can provide excellent food, it really does help wanting to come back. I mean, it honestly does.
Yeah, Ron just said it. Yeah, he just typed. He said it's amazing food. Yeah, we do. And I'm fortunate enough that the key about filmmaking, successful filmmaking, is not only you need to treat your cast and crew with respect, you also have to treat everybody you know with respect. Because, for example, if you're making a movie, Inner's a very good example. We shot in a Metro Park Zoo, and we got it for very, very low cost, just because I happen to know the owners very well, and we're friends. Same thing. You're friend with everybody in your network, and you suddenly you need catering for 12 days. I got 4 different Chinese restaurants and 1 American food place that I can actually reach out to every time I need to, and ask for them to provide me catering for free. It was just that simple. All I did just ask. The reason why they like to do that for me, because I patronize their businesses. I would go to this restaurant, I eat them almost every day, and enjoy the food. For example, Scoop, Trim was cool. My favorite restaurant, ice cream place. This is my cat, John, by the way.
He misses me. That's what it is.
He drives me crazy. He's very spoiled. So I go there every time we have finished a 48-hour project. We would go and have everybody, all the cast and crew, have free ice cream there, and they love me so much they will let me use this place anytime I want to.
We were trying that one day.
Yeah, we actually tried one day to shoot there, and unfortunately we couldn't. Our gear broke, so we couldn't shoot anything. But they let us do it. And this is called relation building. You build with a friendship with everybody, and in return, you treat them with respect, you treat them with honesty, and in return, they would give you the same thing back.
Well, I was going to say, I could attest to that definitely. Just coming from where I met Johnny, he came in and spoke to one of my classes. Now, I was friends with Johnny on Facebook because a trope of the Cleveland film scene is that everybody eventually becomes friends with each other, and that's kind of a big networking thing. But he came to speak to one of my classes. I'm like, oh, a Spider-Man fan film. I'm going to audition for that. And then, went to the studio where we used to work and just kind of, got to know him, got to know the location. And I did something that I never do. And that's just straight up be like, you have any internship opportunities? And that's where my relationship with Johnny started, because he's extremely inviting, and I thank you every single day, obviously, for the amount of work that I've been able to do and stuff.
You did a great job, so I keep you around. That's why.
I appreciate that, but I mean, it to anybody who wants to work on films and stuff like that, it's just a great place to learn the insides and outsides of film. I mean, we worked on Parker. And I auditioned for the movie, and it was an opportunity where I was able to be lucky enough to skyrocket to an assistant director position very early on, and learn so much from Johnny when it came to scheduling, which is obviously, I share that sentiment with you about how scheduling is the worst thing in the world. But it's working with Johnny, you learn so much. I remember at our one of our gatherings, I said I went to film school. Everything that I learned was from Johnny, because we are able. There's so much experience. You learn so much from experience. I think that's kind of just what I'm trying to get at.
I guess you want a raise person, right?
Yeah, I mean, it helps. But no, it's just it's the opportunity that you provide. At least me, you provided me with so much opportunity and abilities to work on different things that you learn so much from those experiences and can bring them into. Hi, John. John, I miss you too. You can bring them into your own sets and stuff like that. So
yeah.